Who is a fan of vibe coding? Don't be shy. Don't be shy. I think vibe coding has kind of a negative meaning or negative annotation. I don't know if that's the right word, but negative feeling to it when we say it, especially among the software engineers. We should be able to do everything by hand or manually. But I think vibe coding has its places. I've tried vibe coding. I am not a big fan, but I think somewhere between vibe coding and doing everything manually is where the answer lies. But it's just really hard to know where that is. I know Linus, surprisingly, is more for LLM than a lot of people guessed. He's optimistic about the future of LLM and how that can improve the efficiency of coding. So this article sounds interesting. Vibe coding, what is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Sorry, Linus. Coding purists once considered basic harmful. AI can't even manage that. And for those of you that are new here, my name is Pascal. I'm studying software engineering masters. My background is in mathematics, and I used to work as data scientist. And on this channel, we read daily software engineering articles. So if that interests you, make sure to like and subscribe. And before getting into the article, I just wanted to introduce the sponsor of today's video. If you're always looking for smarter ways to study, you need to know about StudyFetch. Today, I'm highlighting one of the most game-changing features, TutorMe. Have you ever struggled with not knowing where to start or how to approach a new topic? Well, TutorMe is here to help. With this feature, all you have to do is input the topics you want to learn, and StudyFetch generates a personalized learning outline just for you. Whether you're tackling advanced math, diving into history, or brushing up on programming like myself here, it breaks everything down into easy-to-follow steps. Not only does it give you a structured outline, but it also generates lecture slides to read up on. It's like having a personal tutor. So if you want to make studying more efficient and less overwhelming, give TutorMe on StudyFetch a try today. Link is in the description, check it out, and level up your learning. It's an article written by Rupert Goodwins on The Register. Opinion. It is a truth universally acknowledged that a singular project process possessed of prospects is in want of a team. That team has to be built from good developers with experience, judgment, analytic and logic skills, and strong interpersonal communication. Where AI coding fits in remains strongly contentious. Opinion on vibe coding in corporate IT is more clearly stated. You're either selling the stuff or steering well clear. The reasons are simple. Code generation is sold on promises of fast results from natural language prompts, not requiring specialist knowledge of how code actually works. This much is somewhat true, and impressive 2-minute demos, if well chosen, are certainly possible. In this respect, vibe coding is much like the low-code/no-code movement that's been around for 30 years. Recently, I tried vibe coding, and we used Cursor for it. And one of the things is that you quickly run out of tokens really fast. And from there, what can you do but to pay more? And I just feel like it doesn't really save money, or it doesn't really save cost. Maybe it's faster at the start, but yeah, I definitely thought that pure vibe coding isn't really the answer. And because with Cursor it generates so much code so quickly, it was overwhelming just to really understand the code base and to be able to make changes myself. So yeah, I did enjoy vibe coding really, but yeah, it was my first time. Having said that, it was my first time, so there's a lot of learning to do too. Vibe coding really falls down thereafter because it's non-deterministic. Low/no code platforms have consistency in how their interface responds to user input. Iterative tweaking works, from fiddling with fonts to restarting with a completely new approach. Vibe coding may give you a different result over time for exactly the same prompts. Trying to tweak the results is highly dependent on how the AI chooses to interpret your requests and how strongly it's attached to its original idea, which it often is. Let's now get started on how you maintain a code base that no human has ever understood when your tools are constantly mutating. If there aren't many production apps under the low/no code banner after 30 years, the prospects for vibe coding are dim indeed. Even if vibe coding fulfills the most basic function or of quickly producing a prototype model to explore ideas, it will hit the principle that prototypes can be killed, instead mutating into monsters. When something looks functional, the pressure from outside to build on it immediately is usually immense. That's bad enough in any environment, but the vibe really won't dig it. I think one of the things as well is that when you vibe code, the only person knows about the code base is really the LLM, and therefore there is no one else to ask but the LLM. And again, if you don't have any tokens left to ask, then yeah, too bad, you just have to pay more. And yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. In one respect though, vibe coding does have an attractive attribute that is difficult to find elsewhere. For the first time since instant on home computers that fell straight into a basic interpreter, it's possible to make things happen with a bit of typing as a very naive user. Linus Torvalds sees this as a saving grace, comparing it last week to the days of typing in programs from the back of computer magazines. That's not wrong. If you're there, you remember how nightmarish it was to fix logic or printing errors in hundreds of lines of nomic code, but it also completely misses the point. Basic met criticism similar to vibe coding back in the day, being seen as encouraging bad programming practices and unstructured, impenetrable, unmaintainable code. Elder god Asger Dijkstra argued in Go-To statement considered harmful that this was the progenitor of this critique, and the phrase resonated down the decades, which is like saying that the children who pick up a musical instrument to see what they can do, or who are taught by teachers with no formal training, will make terrible music. Often that's true. The thing is, that's where the most good musicians start. It's where music starts. If you find you love it, you'll get better. Same with basic. Vibe coding has no such path. That's not its fault, not entirely. To get to the doing something useful stage in modern computing environment means producing complex code with APIs and structures and no end of confectionery around the core logic. Hacking away at iterative prompts won't build the internal framework of understanding that building code does, and without the dopamine hit of sudden understanding that fuels so many early coding experiences, the process won't reward the autodidact to keep going for more of the same. Another thing that I didn't like about vibe coding was that if there's an error, there's a bug, it's just so hard to fix because, again, no one knows the code base except for the LLM, and therefore you have to ask the LLM to fix the bug, but many of you might know already, it just becomes just a circle of code not working. Vibe coding that doesn't code would be a much better idea. Stuff that suggests where to start, what to learn, and helps build an environment where you can get results that quickly and clearly depend on discovering and trying out ideas. These tools exist already. They are called books, they are called tutorials. And you can also use LLM for this too. You can ask questions, good learning resources, good books to recommend, and things like that. Yeah. I think it's up to you how you want to learn. And I think learning it this way, learning it the way that it takes longer is a great approach, I find. It would be nice to Be instantly productive while learning the ropes, and no tutorial or book will offer the specificity of a unique, innovative outcome. It's not clear that LLMs could do this either reliably or at all, but it would be an interesting experiment. Fortunately, there is a way to do this, and it's called joining a supportive and experienced team prepared to mentor you and feed you just the right tasks to build your skills. If you don't know much about the realities of coding, vibe coding sounds great. That's one of generative AI's biggest risk factor, the ability to inspire confidence independent of reality. Likewise, if you remember the days when you didn't know much about coding, vibe coding sounds like a good way to help others to take the same steps as you did. Both of these overlook how much of learning and coding is about motivation, reward, and comprehension, understanding the future, and most importantly, doing all this amid other people. That's the real vibe. I think vibe coding has its place. I think it's got a very small place, in my opinion, and I think it needs to be used carefully. Otherwise, you just end up making the companies that own these LLMs richer and richer. Yeah, and the more you use it, the more I think the code base gets out of hand. But yeah, I think the answer is somewhere in between, as most things. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.